Nigerian political landscape in the late 1970s. After more than a decade of military rule, the ban on politics is finally about to be lifted. What followed was nothing short of the ultimate heavyweight democratic race. I'm talking about a massive, intense scramble to capture the hearts and minds of a newly empowered electorate. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to dive right into our third term, Week 5 material. We are going to unpack the formation, the fierce battles, and the lasting legacies of the political parties that completely defined Nigeria's Second Republic. To keep us on track, let's look at the tale of the tape for today's matchup. First, the dawn of the Second Republic. Second, the NPN, the national movement. Third, the UPN, the strong opposition. Fourth, the NPP, the power brokers. And finally, we'll look at fueling the political machines. All right, let's dive into this with Section 1, Dawn of the Second Republic, the starting bell. 1978. This year is absolutely crucial. It is the crucible of Nigeria's Second Republic. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just a date on a calendar. It was literally a starting pistol for a massive political gold rush. The military government was initiating this huge transition process to terminate military rule and hand power back to civilians by 1979. The sheer urgency in the air must have been absolutely palpable as these political figures scrambled to build nationwide coalitions almost overnight. Just look at how incredibly fast things moved here. On September 21, 1978, the ban on political activity is officially lifted. Literally the very next day, September 22nd, our first major party, the UPN, is formed out of the National Committee of Friends. By October, another contender, the NPP, is stitched together. And by November 18th, at their very first convention, the NPP is already splitting into two factions. There's no other way to describe it. It was a chaotic, high-stakes scramble to get organized before those 1979 elections. Moving right along to Section 2, NPN, the national movement, contender number 1. So, born out of the momentum of the 40th anniversary celebrations of the Sultan of Sokoto, the NPN aimed to mobilize members across the entire country. They really wanted to push far beyond any single region. Now, what's really interesting about their objectives is how they matched that massive scale. They were promising a comprehensive program of rapid industrialization and self-reliance in the agricultural sector. They also targeted qualitative education, a standardized health sector, and these really ambitious urban and rural housing schemes. It was this broad, infrastructure-heavy, and development-focused playbook perfectly designed to appeal to a huge swath of the Nigerian populace. Next up, Section 3, UPN, the strong opposition. Contender number 2. Formed under the leadership of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the UPN was essentially the First Republic's action group, just operating under a new name. But to meet the new constitutional requirements for party formation, they actively sought out members from all parts of the country to build a truly formidable political force. And to differentiate themselves from the NPN's big industrialization goals, the UPN took a highly specific, socially focused approach. They promised free education at all levels and free medical services for all. They also zeroed in on full employment and a rural integrated program. So we're seeing a really distinct contrast in political vision here. You've got targeted social welfare on one side and large-scale industrialization on the other. Which brings us to Section 4, NPP, the power brokers. Contender number 3.
Now, the NPP was initially this alliance of 3 distinct political associations, which included Club 19, the Progressive Front of the Eastern States and Lagos, and the National Council of Understanding and Solidarity. This positioned them to be major power brokers in this new republic. But remember that rapid timeline we looked at a minute ago? Well, here is where the drama really hits. At their very first national convention in Lagos on November 18, 1978, the party completely fractured. The dispute was intensely focused on one question. Could one single person be both the party's presidential candidate and its chairman? That disagreement was so fierce, it literally split the party right down the middle, resulting in one faction remaining as the NPP and the other breaking away to form the Great Nigeria People's Party, or GNPP. Talk about political fireworks before the first ballot was even cast.
But despite that massive split, the NPP still consolidated around a really strong platform. Their objectives focused heavily on the promotion of unity, human rights, and the rule of law. Economically, they pushed for self-reliance and, very crucially, equal revenue allocation. And much like the UPM, they also put a massive emphasis on providing employment opportunities for all Nigerians. Okay, let's move to Section 5 and see how this all builds up. The scorecard. Achievements in the arena. So, how did the dust settle? This breakdown shows us the actual results of that massive political scramble we've been talking about. The NPN emerged right at the top, winning governorship elections in 7 states, securing a majority in the Senate, and producing Nigeria's very first executive president. The UPN was right behind them, capturing 5 states. They acted as a really strong opposition and successfully implemented their famous free education policy in the states they controlled. Meanwhile, the NPP captured 3 states, positioning themselves strategically so they could work with the ruling NPN party. I want to pause on this number right here for a second. 7. Winning 7 states might seem like just a statistic on a page, but you have to understand, this represents the absolute strategic dominance of the NPN in the Second Republic. Capturing those 7 governorships gave them the exact geographic and political footprint they needed to claim the presidency and drive their national agenda. All right, let's jump to Section 6, Fueling the Political Machines, how the contenders stayed in the fight. Because, let's be real, mobilizing millions of voters, printing materials, and running nationwide campaigns across a massive country like Nigeria does not happen for free. So, how do they pay for it? What you should really take away from this is that regardless of their differing ideologies, whether they were promising industrialization or free education, their funding playbooks were remarkably identical. All 3 major parties relied heavily on financial allocations from FEDECO, the Federal Electoral Commission. But beyond that, they generated revenue through membership subscriptions, private donations, and the sale of party publicity items. They even imposed special levies on their own party members who were elected or appointed to government posts. It was a rigorous, highly organized approach to campaign finance across the board. But beyond the money and the electoral victories, there was a much deeper impact. I really want to highlight this quote. It was originally attributed to the achievements of the UPN, but frankly, it represents a massive victory for the NPN and NPP as well. All of these parties served as vital mediums of political education. After over a decade of military rule, they actually got Nigerians organizing again. They got them debating policies, voting, and actively engaging in the democratic process. They successfully raised the political consciousness of the entire nation. Which leaves us with this really important final thought. The rapid party formations in 1978, the fierce ideological debates between infrastructure and social welfare, and those strategic alliances formed in the Second Republic, none of these things existed in a vacuum. So how did the promises and rivalries of that era shape the political landscape we see today? Because the foundational blueprints of modern Nigerian democracy were literally drawn by these very heavyweights. Thank you so much for diving into this 3rd term, Week 5 history with me on today's Explainer, and keep exploring the past to understand our present.